Today we'll start with the subject 18FT 704 Garment Testing, Performance and Sustainability. We are at Unit 5 where we talk about the global regulatory testing requirements on harmful substances in apparel and textiles. Now when we are talking about the global regulatory testing and their requirements, and there are different countries where the regulations are different. So in lesson 1 we will talk about the United States regulations. Now apparels or textile products are getting exported in US. So what are those regulations we need to follow, and what are different regulations on harmful substances both in adult or children's garment, and performance wise and also that harmful substances wise, how it differs in different regulations in US. And also we will see that different state regulation in US, so how the regulation varies, because majority of the exports in India and neighboring countries are there in US. So we will focus on US regulations and what are the regulations we should follow while doing the export. Now when we are emphasizing on US regulations, two systems are available in US regulations. One we call it as federal laws. Sometimes in certain safety issues we use these federal laws, and there are also different states available in US. So state laws are different from the federal laws. So those are the two regulations in US that we need to see this in this particular lesson 1 of unit 5. Now federal law, when you are talking that we talk about the people in the territories of US and review laws and take appropriate decisions in federal law. So that covers under this. Federal laws in US concerning different chemicals, and different laws are associated with CPSA, CPSIA, FHSA, FIFRA, TSCA. These are all different regulations that we will take it in this particular lesson. And these are all coming under the US federal regulation. Now state law, if you see that people in particular area of the states in US, these state regulations are there, and different bills are passed on these regulations. So when you talk about the state laws, that Cal Prop 65, that is the California Proposition 65 comes, then WCSPA comes, State of Illinois Lead Poisoning Prevention Act, that also come under this category of state laws. Now what are the different laws associated with that we will see now. Now first we will start with Consumer Product Safety Act, CPSA, and it involves the safety standards, and recalls for products with the risk is associated with CPSA. So this act talks about such consumer products. Now Consumer Product Safety Act, CPSA, when you are talking, 16 CFR Part 1101 through 1406 are covered. It covered different items like bicycles, then children toys and other items associated with this act. Purpose of this act is to protect the public from the risk of injury. So dangerous products which are covered under this act are taken into account, and the purpose also deals with that consumer protection. How we will protect the consumer? For that we have to understand the safety aspects of it. So that is the purpose of CPSA, and under these uniform safety standards are there. It promotes research and investigations also. Now Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act, we call it as CPSIA. Here new testing and documentation requirements, different level of several substances, that is also important in CPSIA, and different products are covered under this category as is shown in figure. Provisions which are there in the CPSIA, the lead restrictions are there, certification and third party testing of toys are involved into this CPSIA. Provisions of CPSIA also include children's product safety and traceability. There is a ban on phthalates which are used in children's products. So those are covered under this CPSIA. Now provisions also include that infant products, as we are talking, the safety standards and consumer registration, toy safety standards are also involved into this CPSIA standard. So different harmful chemicals or different harmful substances which are available in the toys, those are covered under this. And if you see under this category, testing and exposure level, so lead comes first into that, is a heavy metal, then comes the phthalate. So these are the areas actually of concern under this CPSIA. Now CPSIA, when we are talking of US regulation, federal regulations, lead is one of the most important thing. So limit of lead allowed in surface coating is 90 ppm. So different children's products, this lead is available. Now phthalate, when you are talking, there are various kinds of phthalates. So dibutyl phthalate, benzyl butyl phthalate. So levels higher than 0.1% is dangerous for any kind of safety. So that we have to regulate in this kind of act. Now mandatory testing, when you are talking, general conformity certificate also needs to be used for that, and it covers the safety regulations. So when a particular product is getting that certificate, that means that certificate tells that this product is 100% safe product. So different buyers, they use this general conformity certificates for ensuring the safety of the consumers. Now general conformity certificate needs to mention the date and place, then contact information, applicable rule and standards and ban, etc. So those are covered under this general certificate of conformity. Now second, regulations that Federal Hazardous Substances Act or FHSA. So corrosive material, flammable and combustible material. So this is applicable there, FHSA. Now Federal Hazardous Substances Act, FHSA, talks about the toxicity, decomposition of the product, then heating of the product and other means. So those are covered under this FHSA category. Then Federal Hazardous Substances Act also covered radioactive substances, electrical, mechanical and thermal hazards are covered under this category. Now FHSA also talks about the pesticides, then heating as fuels. So those are also covered under this FHSA Act. Now this FIPRA, another regulations, that is called Federal Insecticides, Fungicides and Rodenticides Act. FIPRA is the name. It talks about the pesticides regulations. So a lot of antimicrobial chemicals or bacterial chemicals are banned, and these are all used in the finishing of the material. So under this FIPRA Act, now pesticides are covered under this and antimicrobial chemical. Toxic Substances Control Act, TSCA, it regulates the commerce, protect human health and the environment. So all this Improvement Act or the Toxic Substances Control Act, TSCA, talks about Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, to regulate the new and existing chemicals into the United States. Now three objectives of TCCA, that is to assess and regulate new commercial chemicals which are entering into the processes. Then second talks about regulation or regulate the chemicals for health or environmental purpose. And the third one, which talks about the objective like chemicals distribution and use. So those are the three objectives of TSCA. Now, Toxic Substances Control Act TSCA specifically regulates the PCB products, that is the polychlorinated biphenyl products. So, those are different items where this PCB are available, and different pigment derived from these PCBs are harmful in nature. So, that is controlled by TSCA. Now, when you are talking about the environment, there is a protection agency that is called Environmental Protection Agency in US, EPA. It talks about human health and environment, the regulations and policies, those are all discussed under this Environmental Protection Act. Environmental Protection Agency EPA talks about environmental assessment also. They do a lot of research on this, education based research and all this, they do it in EPA. Now, this also talks about Clean Air Act CAA, and also this chemicals targeted by EPA contains the PBDs, then benzidine based chemical substances which are found in azo colors, then DNPP phthalate based product, then C12 to C13 chlorinated alkynes and HBCDs. So, all these chemicals are targeted by Environmental Protection Agency. Now, coming into the little bit of a state act, that is the California Proposition 65. It is a Safe Drinking Water Toxic Enforcement Act is covered under this Proposition 65 of California, and it also talks about the reduction of carcinogenic and reprotoxic chemicals. So, very important in California region, this CalProp 65 rule is applied. Now, consumer product examples of CalProp 65 is bicycles, then brass containing products, then cosmetics. So, those are all elements or products covered under this CalProp 65. Now, it also covered the exercise mats, clothing, etc. under this category. It also covered the leather furniture kind of thing. Then it talks about the jewelry products. So, these are the different examples of CalProp 65, and based on that different chemicals are banned. Now, textile chemicals listed in CalProp 65 is carcinogenic amines, azo-dyes, then this kind of products are which dyes actually it forms some carcinogen, those are banned chemicals. So, textile chemicals listed also under this CalProp 65 is phthalate and other chemicals, flame retardant chemicals, etc. Now, Washington Children's Safe Product Act WCSPA, what is that? It talks about chemicals in children's products as shown in figure. Then children's products like toys, jewelry, then feeding accessories, car seats. So, all these things are covered under this children's product. Now, CSPA restrictions talks about lead, cadmium, phthalate. So, those are the harmful heavy metals present. It also covers the list of chemicals as a contaminant above 100 ppm. Any kind of chemicals which is present there above 100 ppm, there is restriction from CSPA. Examples: the methylene chloride, carbon disulfide, methyl ethyl ketone. So, products which are containing these are banned under this category. Now, State of Illinois Lead Poisoning Prevention Act talks about reduction and prevention of lead poisoning in children's products. So, this is very harmful. So, that lead is causing a lot of environmental issues, health issues, etc. So, prohibiting the lead bearing substances, that is why is very important under this State of Illinois State Poisoning Act. And this prevention also talks about certain statements on the product that the lead bearing substances should be leveled in the product. So, that is a caution kind of thing. Now, it also covered the reporting system like lead poisoning and the following up of the matter where the particular product has been identified after the testing. So, it also covered about the screening, prevention and abatement of the product and where the lead poisoning is done. Now, California Green Chemistry Initiative is another state initiative which talks about innovative designs and manufacturing. Safe consumer product alternatives are covered under this category and talks about the green chemistry part. This also covered the regulating the materials hazardous which are hazardous to human health and the environment. So, CGCI talks about that California Green Chemistry Initiative. Now, recommendations, the expand pollution preventions, this is one of the recommendations. Then another recommendations of this pollution prevention is the green chemistry. Green chemistry should be implemented in the system. Then another regulations which are covered under these recommendations, the online product ingredient network, that is covered under this CGCI recommendations. It also talks about online toxic clearing house, toxics in packaging and clearing house, that is also another CGCI act. Recommendation also talks about accelerating the quest for safer products. Green products and the safer products are very, very important. And finally, the cradle to cradle economy is getting respected in CGCI recommendations. So, a product which are there in this cradle is not going out, so raw material will be there in that cradle to cradle cycle. So, what is the summary of today's lesson in global regulations? And when you are talking about US regulations, in this particular lesson we have seen the federal laws in the US and also we have seen the state laws. Federal laws like CPSIA, CPSA, and then the state laws we have seen the California Prop 65, so green chemistry kind of thing, Illinois Act, Poisoning Act, etc. So these are the different United States regulations covered under this hazardous product category. So harmful substances should not be present in the product, that is the ultimate motto of this global regulatory requirements. And here in this lesson we talked about the US regulations, which means that any product which are coming from any countries, that must covered under these regulations. So based on where it is getting landed or exported of US, whether it is in the federal areas of US or in the state areas of US, so different regulations are different for different areas. So that talks about the global regulatory requirements. This main purpose of these requirements, as we have seen in US regulations, to protect the consumers. Okay, we have to protect the consumer in terms of the health, and also we have to protect as well the environmental issues. So that's all in this global regulatory requirements for US. So thank you very much for listening to this lesson 1 of Unit 5. Thanks.